Hello everyone, welcome back to another lecture on reasoning ability and problem solving. In today's lecture, we will discuss some example questions for syllogisms. Now, in the previous lecture, we discussed that there are three types of problems that can come into your syllogisms. We also discussed the various concepts that is used to solve questions on syllogism. The main concept was of Venn diagrams. This you should know to be able to solve questions on syllogisms. What is Venn diagram? Basically, it is a chart that is used to represent data. We discussed all this in detail in the previous lecture, correct? In today's lecture, we will discuss some questions to get a better conceptual clarity. So let us start with this question. This is example number 1. The question says, read the given statements and conclusions carefully. So two statements are given to us and two conclusions are given to us. Assuming that the information given in the statement is true. So I've told you whenever we solve questions on syllogisms, we take the statements, or I can write statements are the universal truth, or you can call them universal fact. So statements are your universal truth or your universal fact, even if they appear to be at variance with commonly known facts. That means that even if there is no common logic, okay, there is no common sense to the question, we still consider to be universally true. Okay, we consider them to be universally true. Okay, so the question says we have to decide which of the given conclusions logically follows from the statements. So one more thing important that you should remember, we only take statements that are definitely true. Okay, we do not take statements that are a possibility. These are considered to be false. These are considered to not follow until and unless in the question it is mentioned that it is a possibility. If in the conclusion it says that A being B is possibility, then it can be true. But we look for only definite true statements. Okay, so this much information you should remember before solving any question on syllogism. So let us start this particular question. This question says statement is given, all chips are Lays. So that means all chips will be Lays, correct? All chips will be Lays. It can be represented like this. Some Lays are snacks. So some Lays are snacks means some Lays and snacks will overlap. This area represent that some Lays are snacks, correct? This is the Venn diagram. This will be your final Venn diagram. Now let us look at the conclusion. Conclusion 1 says all Lays are chips. So definitely this is a false conclusion. Why? Because all chips are Lays. But all Lays are definitely not chips. If you look at this part, okay, I'm using a different pen to highlight. If you look at this portion is Lays, but this portion is not chips. So all Lays are chips is incorrect because there is a portion that is Lays but not chips. So this is incorrect. This is a false statement. Conclusion 2 says all chips are snacks. Again, this is not correct because over here, if I look over here, we have chips and this are snacks. In this particular diagram, this is not overlapping. There could be a diagram like this. So this is Lays, let's say this is snacks, and we have chips over here. So all chips are snacks. We can have a diagram like this, but this is a possibility. And whenever we talk about possibility, it may or may not be true. Therefore, we consider them to be false. So I will say that both the statement or both the conclusions 1 and 2 are false. So if I look at the options says, option number 3 says neither conclusion 1 nor 2 follows. So this will be my answer because both the conclusions are false. Okay. Now, example 2. Statement is some pets are birds. So if this is my pet, this will be my birds. Some pets are birds. Correct? All birds are mat. So if this is my birds, this will be my mats. All birds are mats. So this is how I can represent them, correct? Now let us come to the conclusion. Conclusion 1 says all mats are birds. So again, this is not true, because if you look at this portion, if you look over here, this portion is mat, but this portion is not birds, correct? This portion is mat, but this portion is not birds, this one. So therefore, this is a false statement. This is not correct. Now, it says, let's say this is, let me draw again, okay? Some pets are birds, all birds are mats. So this is how we will represent. Now, second is some mats are pet. So if you look over here, if you look at this area, there is certain mats that are pets, correct? This area represents mats and pets. So therefore, this is true. So conclusion 2 will follow, while conclusion 1 will not follow. Conclusion 2 will follow, but conclusion 1 will not follow. Let's just look at the options. The option says, I can see over here, option number 1 says only conclusion 2 follow. This will be the correct answer. Okay. Coming to example 3. Example 3 says no plate is a spoon. That means plate and spoon are separate identities. They will not overlap. Plate and spoon will not overlap. They are separate entities. Some plates are forks. That means plates and forks will overlap this area. Some plates are forks, correct? All forks are knives. So if all forks are knives, I will draw it like this. All forks are knives. So this will be my Venn diagram. Based on this diagram, I will represent the data. No plate is a spoon, so they are separate entities. Some plates are forks and all forks are knives. So this is how I will represent my data. Now let us look at the conclusion. Conclusion 1 says some plates are knives. So if you look over here, if I look at the Venn diagram, there are certain plates that are being overlapped with knives, correct? Some plates are knives, so therefore this is true. Some plates are knives. Second says no spoon is a fork. This is not correct, because if I extend S like this, okay, S and P are not overlapping, but S can be like this. So spoon and fork can overlap. So no spoon is a fork is a possibility, but it is not true. Therefore, this will be a false statement. So I can see that only statement 1 or only conclusion 1 is true. So if I look at the options, option number 1 says that only conclusion 1 follows. This will be my answer, because only conclusion 1 is following. Okay. Example number 4. Example number 4 says there are two statements, two conclusions. Let us look at them. All x are b. So it can be represented like this. All x are a part of b. So b will come over here. All x are b. Correct? All n are x. That means there will be a subset over here that will have n. So all n are part of x. This will be my diagram. Now let us look at the conclusion. Conclusion 1 says all n are b. Definitely this is correct, because if all n are x and all x are b, all n will definitely be b. So this is definitely true. Therefore, this will be a conclusion that follows. Correct? Conclusion 2 says some b are x. So again, I can see b is the bigger one. There is some portion of b that is x. So this is also true. So both these statements are true. So if I look at the options, option number 3 says both conclusion 1 and 2 follow. So this will be my answer. Both conclusions 1 and 2 will follow. Okay. Moving on to example number 5. Two statements are given to us and two conclusions are given to us. We have to decide which conclusions will follow. First statement is some mangoes are radish. Some mangoes are radish. That means if this is my mango, there will be some mango that will be radish. Correct? This portion. There will be some mango that will be radish. Some mangoes are radish. And no radish is apple. That means radish and apple will be separate entity. Radish and apple will not overlap. Correct? Radish and apple will be separate entity. No radish is apple. Then it is given to us in statement 2, all apples are tomatoes. That means all apples are tomatoes, T will come over here. All apples are part of B, tomatoes. Correct? So if you look at the question, this is not a logically correct question. This does not make any sense in the real world. But whenever we solve questions with syllogisms, we consider statements to be the universal truth. And that is how we solve the question. So this will be the final Venn diagram. And based on this Venn diagram, I have to say whether these conclusions follow or not. Okay? Conclusion 1. Conclusion 1 is all radish being tomatoes is a possibility. So now it is saying in the conclusion that it is a possibility. So we will focus on this. It is a possibility or not. If it is a possibility, then this will be correct. Because if in the question it was just that all radish being tomatoes or all radish are tomatoes, then it would have been a different statement, different conclusion. But when we add the words is a possibility, we consider it to be a possibility, then we don't have to see whether it is definitely true or not. So now let us see. All radish being tomatoes is a possibility. Yes, because see, tomato can extend like this. Tomato can extend like this. There is no restriction on tomato. Correct? So all radish being tomatoes is a possibility. This will be true because it can happen. Conclusion to say some radishes are tomatoes. So this is again, see now if you see, look at this diagram, some radishes are not tomatoes. If you look at this diagram, in this diagram there are radishes that are not tomatoes. Correct? There are no radish that is tomato. So this is a possibility. This is a possibility that some radishes can be tomato. Radishes can be like this. So this could be a possibility, but it is not mentioned in the conclusion that it is a possibility. Therefore, this will be false. Do you understand? If we add the word is a possibility, then it is a true statement because we are considering it to be a possibility. Otherwise, we look at only definitely true statements. So conclusion number 2, even though it is a possibility, but since there is no mention of it being a possibility, it is a false statement because this is not definitely true. So only conclusion 1 will be following. So if I look at the options, option number 2 says only 1 follows. This will be my answer. Clear? Now, example number 6. Example number 6, statements and conclusion. Statement says no basket is a trolley. So, basket and trolley will not overlap because no basket is a trolley. Correct? No trolley is a suitcase. So, now we have a third separate entity, suitcase. So, trolley and suitcase will not overlap. Trolley and suitcase will not overlap. So, now if you look, there is no restriction on basket and suitcase to overlap. They can overlap. Suitcase can be like this also and basket can be like this also. They can overlap. There is no restriction, but there is restriction between B and T and there is restriction between T and S. Okay. Now let us look at the question. The question says, first conclusion says some baskets being suitcase is a possibility. C is a possibility. Yes, it is a possibility. So this is true. Some basket being suitcase is a possibility. Addition of the word is a possibility makes it true. So this is true. Some suitcase are basket. C. Now this is false. Because this is a possibility. It is not definitely true. Until unless it is mentioned it is a possibility, we only look for definitely true statements. Therefore, this will be false. Same concept. So, please pay attention. The word is a possibility is important. Because until unless it is mentioned like this, we assume that it is definitely true. So, it may or may not follows. Therefore, whenever we are in confusion, we mark it as false. But this one says it is a possibility. Yes, it is a possibility. Therefore, this is true. So, if I look at the options, option number 1 says that only conclusion 1 follows. This will be my answer. Okay? This will be my answer. Moving on to example number 7. Example number 7, 2 statements, 3 conclusions. We have to tell which one will follow, which one will not. Statement 1 is no X is L. That means X and L will not overlap. Correct? X and L will not overlap. There are separate entities. All M are X. So within X, we will have a subset of M. All M is a part of X. So this will be my diagram. Now let us look at the conclusion. No L is X. This is true. Definitely, because X and L are separate entities, they're not overlapping. No L is M. This is also true because M is a part of X. M is a part of X and X cannot overlap L. Therefore, this is also true that no L is M. Okay. Third one is all M are L. This is definitely false. This is definitely false. So 1 and 2 conclusion follows, but the third one does not follow. So if I look at the options, the option number 3 says only conclusion 1 and 2 follow, 3 will not follow. Therefore, this will be my answer. Okay, this will be my answer. Example 8. Example 8, 3 statements, 2 conclusions. Let us draw the mock diagram. Venn diagram says some mocks are exams. So, if let's say this is my mock, some mock will be exam. This is how it will be represented, correct? Some exam are banks. So, if this is my exam, there will be banks. Okay, they will be overlapping like this. No bank is local. So, there is restriction on bank and local. Local is a separate entity and bank is a separate entity. They will not overlap. Banks and local will not overlap. So, this will be my Venn diagram. This will be my basic Venn diagram. Let's just look at the conclusions. Conclusion 1 says some mocks are locals. So, if you look over here, there is no restriction on mock and local. Correct? So, this is a possibility. This is can or cannot be true, right? This may or may not be true, but it is not mentioned in the conclusion that it is a possibility. Therefore, this is false. Because it was written like, okay, if the conclusion said some mocks are local is a possibility, then it would be true. But it is not mentioned like this. Therefore, it is false. No mock is local. See, now look at it over here. This is also a possibility. Correct? This is also a possibility. Therefore, this should be false as well. But now look at conclusion number 1 and 2. Conclusion number 1 and 2, either of the one will follow. Okay? Mocks will be like this or they will be like this. Correct? One of the two. Mocks will be like this or they will be like this. So either there will be some mocks that are local or there will be no mocks that are local. So this basically I can say it is a either or condition. This is either one will follow, okay, either one will follow or two will follow. This is a either or condition. This is an either or condition because some mocks are locals or no mock is a local. So either of the two will follow. So my answer will be that either one follow or two follow. So if I look at the options, option number 4 says that either conclusion 1 follows or 2 follows. This will be my answer. Okay. Example number 9. Example number 9. No 3 statements, 2 conclusion. No 90s or 80s. That means there is a restriction on 90s and 80s. There are separate entities. They will not overlap. Okay. Some 90s are 40s. So we will have some 40s that will be overlapping with 90s. Correct? All 80s are 70s. All 80s are 70s. That means 70s will be like this. All 80s are 70s. So this will be my Venn diagram. No 90s are 80s. So there is restriction. Some 90s are 40s and all 80s are 70s. Now let us look at the conclusions. Conclusion 1 says all 80s being 40s is a possibility. Can it come over here? Yes, because there is no restriction on 80s and 40s. I can draw the diagram like this. Let's say this is my 90s. Okay. And this is my 40s. In my 40s, I have 80s. 80s and 90s will not overlap. And I have my 70s. Is there any restriction over here? No, this can be the diagram. So all 80s being 40s is a possibility. So since is a possibility is written, yes, it is a possibility. Therefore, this is a true statement. Okay. Conclusion number 2 says some 70s are not 80s, some 70s are not 90s. So over here, I can see that some 80s are there in 70s. This portion is definitely not 90s. This portion is definitely not 90s. They will not overlap with 90s. So this is also true. So both my conclusion 1 and 2 is true. So if I look at the options, If I look at the options, there is option number 3 that says both conclusion 1 and 2 follows. This will be the answer. Okay. Example number 10. Example number 10 statement. Sum A are B. So simple. Sum A are B. All C are B. So all C will come inside B. All C are a part of B. Correct? This will be the Venn diagram. Conclusion 1 says some B's are A is a possibility. Yes, some B's are A's is a possibility. Second one says no C is A. This is a possibility. So this is false because it is not definitely true. This one is a true statement. Third one says all A are C. All A are C? No, because I can see over here C is smaller and A is bigger. So this is also false. So my answer will be that only conclusion 1 follows, which is given in option number 2. This will be the correct answer to this question. Clear? Example 11. Statement 1 is no atom is a molecule. So atoms and molecules are separate entities. Okay, they will not overlap. No atom is a molecule. No molecule is an element. So molecule and element is a separate entity. They will not overlap with each other. There is no restriction on atoms and elements. They are different colored cross. Okay. Now, conclusion 1 says it is possible for some atoms to be elements. Yes. Because my atoms can be like this. There is no restriction. Correct? There is no restriction. They can overlap. So this is a true possibility. It is mentioned in the question that it is possible. The word possible is being used. So this is true. Second one says some elements are molecules. So this is definitely false because they cannot overlap. So answer will be that conclusion number 1 is true. So if I look at the options, option number 1 says that only conclusion 1 follows. This will be the correct answer. Okay. Only conclusion 1 follows. Example number 12. Example number 12. 2 statements, 3 conclusions. Statement 1 says no R is S. So R and S are separate separate entities. They will not overlap. R and S will not overlap. They are separate entities. All X are R. So all X are R. That means X will be a subset of R. All X are R. All X is a part of R. So this will be the Venn diagram. R and S. These two. Let me draw a different symbol. R and S will not overlap. And X is all X are R. So this will be the Venn diagram. Let us look at the conclusion. Conclusion 1 says some R are X. So definitely this portion, some R are X. So this is true. Second one says some S are X. No, because X is inside R. Correct? X is inside R and R and S cannot overlap. So this is false. Third one says all X are S. Definitely false. So only conclusion number 1 is true, but conclusion number 2 and 3 is not true. So if I look at the options, option number 2 says that only conclusion 1 is follows. So this will be my answer. Clear? Example number 13. Example number 13, 2 statements, 2 conclusions. First statement says some M are Q. So there will be some M that are Q. It will be represented like this. Okay. All V are Q will be represented like this. There will be all V are part of Q. Okay. This will be the Venn diagram. First one says some Q are M. So I can clearly see this, this area which says that some Q are M. Therefore, this one is definitely true. Second one says no M is V. If I look over here, okay, if I look over here, V can be here also. V can be here also. So this is basically a possibility. And we look at only definitely true statements. So this is false. If it was written no M is V is a possibility, then it would have been correct. But since possibility word is not mentioned, it is false. So only conclusion 1 will follow. So if I look at the options, option number 2 says that only conclusion 1 follows. This will be my answer. Okay. Example number 14. Example number 14, 3 statements, 2 conclusions. Let us solve. Statement 1 says all hexagons are pentagons. So all hexagons are pentagons. Okay. Statement number 2 says all pentagons are octagons. So all pentagons are octagons. Something like this. All pentagons are octagons. Okay. Statement number 3 says all octagons are decagons. So all octagons are decagons. So something like this. All hexagons are pentagons, all pentagons are octagons, and all octagons are decagons. So this will be the Venn diagram. Now let us see the conclusions. First conclusion says all decagons are hexagon. No, because your hexagons are over here, correct? And your decagons are so big. So I can say that all decagons are hexagons is not true. It can be a possibility, but it is not definitely true. So this will be false. Correct? Second one says all hexagons are octagons. This is definitely true because hexagons is over here and they are definitely a part of octagons. So this will be true. So I can say that only conclusion 2 is true. So if I look at the options, option number 3 says only conclusion 2 is true. So this will be the answer. Clear? Example 15, last question for this lecture. 3 statements, 2 conclusions. Statement 1 says some remotes are batteries. So some remotes, batteries. Okay. All batteries are chargers. So batteries, chargers. Correct. No charger is a cable. That means there will be no overlapping between charger and cable. Correct. This is charger. So there will be no overlapping between charger and cable. Okay. Now let us look at the conclusion. Conclusion 1 says some remotes are cables. Some remotes are cables is a possibility, but is not definitely true. So since the possibility is not written, I will say this is false. Okay. Conclusion number 2 says some batteries are cables. So again, some batteries are cables is definitely false because chargers and cables are not overlapping and batteries is within the charger. So this is also false. Correct? Now let us look at the options. Option number 1 says that neither conclusion 1 nor 2 follows. So this will be my answer. This will be my answer. Clear? So this concludes today's lecture. Thank you.